Welcome to Home Renovision, the YouTube DIY channel that'll help you do renovations at home and get professional results. Today, we are installing a brand new door in an existing hole. Now, here's the thing, if you've ever had this situation in your house, you try to stick a 24-inch door into a 24-inch hole, and it barely fits. A lot of this is because over time, things are moving around, 800 layers of paint are on the door. We're going to get to it today and show you how to fix every one of these problems and install a door from scratch. So one of the biggest pet peeves we have in renovations is people trying to renovate a space to brand new and they want to keep the door. Why you'd want to keep a door to a bathroom that's had a moisture problem, I don't know, but usually they don't function well. They're delaminating, they've got oil and latex paints, they scratch easy, they're just a joke. Throw them out, get a new handle, but now you're forced to deal with this issue. Paint after paint after paint layer, house settling, this door barely sneaks in here. If I throw hinges on this thing, I'm guaranteed to have a horrible result. I'm not going to be able to swing it open and closed, even though the door has got a little bit of beveling on it. So, what we're going to do is show you the tips and tricks, not just on how to create a space where this will fit, but how to mortise in your hinges, how to drill your holes and line it all up, and how to have a successful new door installation in an old space. So first thing is first, you got to figure out how bad the situation is. So I'm right on the ground. This is a 24 by 80 door. It's very standard, off the shelf. My gap at the top is a little bit too big, which is great because the reality is when I lift this door up, it leaves me a little gap at the bottom. So our height really isn't quite enough. That would be a good gap underneath the door, but I don't even have enough space for on top of the door. Not to mention swing is everything level. So when I look at the bottom, I'm also sitting on a marble sill that's on a slope. So I want to add a little extra space. So we're going to cut down the bottom of the door. Okay, that'll give us the extra space that we need. Step one. Step number two, side to side, I'm really tight. Okay, so what I'm going to do to solve that problem is I'm going to take out my hand planer. And this is a simple tool that I keep on the truck because every time I run into a situation with an old door and it needs to be fixed, I got to plane one side so that I can get the room that I need to put a fresh paint job on. So because I don't want to start making the hinge side thinner, because these are hollow doors and you don't want to mess with the integrity strength of where the hinges go, we are going to take it off of this side. Now, this door fits pretty good. And traditionally, what you want is about a 1/16 of an inch gap here and about 1/8 over here. We've only got the 16 going on, so we're going to set the planer to 1/8, give it a quick rip, and then follow it up with a quick little sand, and then we're going to be able to drill the holes. Whew! Now, the thing about using a hand planer on this side of the door is once you start, you can't stop. You don't stop in the middle or it's going to get ugly. So you have to be able to commit to doing the whole line, and then that'll give you a nice straight edge that look just like a factory cut. So first thing we got to do is get this outside, get out the tools, get the planer, cut the bottom, and then we can come and measure for our hinges. The first thing we need to see is that the door has got a bevel. And what happens is when you're swinging the door open and closed, the shorter side of the door, okay, that's the interior of the jamb, and the wider side of the door, that's the exterior of the jamb. So that'll help you to set this up. If you're putting it in backwards, you're in for one heck of a challenge. We only need a 1/4 inch off the bottom and a solid 1/8 off the side. This is my planer, has one wheel with a couple blades, incredibly fast moving machine, and this table here actually adjusts the depth to cut more or less, all right? And that's all there is to it. So we just gotta set this to what we want. I'm loving that. And then make sure that I can do this all in one pass, all right? And then all we do is just drive it down the street. Love this tool. And then we're going to take a 1/4 inch off the bottom. Perfect. So now we're back in with our plain door. once again, we're just gonna stick it in the space. All right, now you can see my height at the top, much better. Look at beautiful gaps down here. Oh yeah. Now, this is really close. And it's possible when we're completely done that when we try the operation of the door, I might need to set the planer on something like really tiny just to do a little bit of custom curving at the bottom. But for now, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna go for it. Now, when we put this door in, we saw that the gap was very consistent across the top. That's really handy. If it's not, then you're gonna wanna scribe the top, use your planer and maybe a hand belt sander and just get that perfect curve. But that's pretty extreme and usually inapplicable with houses that have like stacked stone foundations and that sort of thing. Most situations, a house should sit pretty square and that won't be an issue. Now, we did go out and pick up the same 3-inch hinges that we had here before. So they will fit perfectly in the old space. All right, nice. The only problem is it's sitting a little bit proud on this new jamb, the new casing here. So we're gonna have to clean that up. And the reason I just want to mark here, every age of every house has a different dimension that they set the hinges. This is an odd thing, but if you go to the store, they'll actually sell a door that has the hinges already pre-placed and the knob for the hole already done. That's only good for you if it's a relatively new door that you're changing. Seems like every 15 or 20 years, they change the set height amount for hinges and door handles so that you can't go buy something pre-cut. I'm not sure. I think it's to promote you buying a brand new door jamb as well. But all you have to do is measure from the top down to here. And this one, in this case, wow. We're gonna call that 6 1/4. We're gonna mark that in because what I wanna do is I wanna get this hinge cut in so I can put it on the pin and then I can actually fix the other one perfectly. So what I do is I take to my hinge side and I mark down here, but I don't go 6 1/4, I go 6 1/8. And here's why. I'm setting my door intentionally a little bit lower because I've got a door stop and I want to have a bit of gap here to make sure that I don't have rubbing. So measure this side, translate that information minus 1/8, put your pencil mark. Now, this particular hinge, it is about a full 1/4 away from the jamb. All right, from the door stop, sorry. So, when I translate this over onto this side, if I put this hinge flush, then I have the door stopping a 1/4 inch from the door stop. So what I want to do is I want to come over here and I want to add a full 1/8 here. Okay, and I just trace the top and the bottom and then down the side. Whoop. All right. And that leaves me with the cutout for my hinge. So all of this, and I'm going to try to leave this, which is good because this is a hardboard on the wood. So if I'm just taking the wood out only and leave the hardboard, I actually get the right depth set. And this is something that you can do in your house. And all you need for this is a basic chisel. Now, traditionally, my chisels aren't in the greatest shape, simply because I don't use them often enough to baby them. And when I'm on site, I tend to trust and rely on caulking to finish some of my finishing trims here. And all I'm doing is just setting the depth that I want to take out. Then I want to use my knife to separate the wood from the luan on the front here. Now over the years, the wood that I've been using on these doors has been getting worse and worse and worse. Okay. Now, if you have a really good chisel, this one's actually not that bad, so you can just slide it along if it's good. Otherwise, you need a hammer. All right, and the secret here is to try to not take out more than you need. or you end up backfilling it with little pieces of cardboard, like the old 60s carpenters. Now, if you're going to bring this thing towards you, you got to be careful, because remember, if it's that sharp, you can do it without a hammer, and you slip, this is going to go right to the bone. Anything that cuts wood that easy, trust me, it's not stopping until it hits bone. So be real conscientious about where this is going to go if it slips. Now this is where it gets tricky. The hardboard panel doesn't work as nice as wood. I would suggest using a hammer here. Okay. Now what we do is we set our hinge here and see how we're doing. I'm still a little proud, okay? So we're going to take a little bit more. All right, now we're nice and flush. We're good to go. Very important here. Understand how your hinge works. The pin pulls out from the top. So you close it. This is the top of my door. I set the top of the pin at the top of the door. Open it up. And now, I'm going to set a couple of screws in this bad boy. And here's a little trick for you. Put the tip of the drill bit in the hole. Pound that. Now you got somewhere for that screw to sit before you drive it in. It'll go down the middle of that hole every time. You like? Yeah. That way you're not fooling around looking for where to put that screw. Okay, take the hinge pin out, take the other side, and go and install that in the door jamb. All right. So now we're going to put our hinge back where it belongs. Woo! Okay. All right. Wow. So while my son is busy doing one thing, I'm doing another. What a novel idea. So what we're doing here is we're just setting the hinge pin in. Okay? And you can just wiggle it into position usually. So here we are. My MDF casing is still in the way for the hinges. So now I've got to cut some of this away. Give myself a little bit of room. So now what we want to do is, in order to get this set perfectly, because you don't want your hinges to be squeaking, is you install this hinge in the existing original position. 1, 2, and 3. Don't over tighten or they won't grab. So now the door is hanging in position from the top. You slide it right over here to the sweet spot, which is not necessarily square, because the door might not be straight. The wall jamb might not be straight. The house definitely isn't straight. But now we have a trace line that'll be perfect when I install it. You see how nothing in this house is square. But this also means that nothing is going to squeak. So now that we've got that set up perfectly, just a matter of throwing the screws in. Let's see how the door closes. Perfect every time. Okay, so I picked up a Defiant knob set from Home Depot. Big surprise. Good deal. Gives you privacy. And Mom and Dad can always use a screwdriver to break in. Now, in case you weren't aware, these set for 2 different depths, depending on how far back you set your latch. I like to go a little deeper hole. You know, grown-up hands, it's nice to have a knob just a little bit away from the door. But if you're putting it into an existing door, it's good to know you got options. Screws, latch plate, blah, blah, blah. Here's the instructions. You can read them if you want to, but I picked up this little kit today to demonstrate for you guys at home. this should have everything you need, and it was not even 20 bucks. So the first thing we want to do is create our great big hole. There we go. Okay. Well, that's quite the pilot hole, eh? So the first thing to do is just put the latch plate back. Now, we obviously ripped out an old piece of brass. So, location here is not rocket science. Just reinstall. All right. Whew. Now, this is how I like to operate. That's the middle part of my latch. Okay? So I'm going to just close the door, mark the middle point, and then I'm good to go. What I do is I just set my pencil here and close the door on it. The sound of my pencil breaking is actually how it leaves a mark. That's the mark of the middle of the latch, and that'll set the center up for the whole door. Now, this is snug. It's a perfect little gizmo. And I'm just going to mark my center hole right here. And this comes with a pilot hole right there. And then the middle of the door over here. All right, now we have a pilot hole. Here's the latch. That represents where it sits. Here's the center line of that latch with the center of my door. That's how I know that I'm in a good spot. If I pick the other hole, I'd just move this. But like I said, I'd like the knob away from the edge a little bit. It gives more room for your hand. So now we're going to drill a hole. You're going to brace it on your foot. And I like to drill with a bit of a rolling motion. It makes my hole just about a 1/16 of an inch bigger than it should be, and then it doesn't overheat. Yep. Now I'm through on the other side. That way I finish with a nice clean edge here. Now we go with a 1-inch spade bit that they come in the kit. 1-inch hole is the perfect size. Is it the perfect size or is it too big? Whew, it's actually kind of big. If I had my drill bit case on me, I'd use a 15/16 here. But I don't, so I'm not. We're gonna just follow the system. Now the trick here is to go square in on the door. There we go. When you buy your latch, it comes set up with this. And if you like, you can trace this out and you can chisel it out and set it in, or you can just get rid of it altogether. It just pops off. Okay. And little pins here, they just line it up on the hole and you can slide them off. And then you just slide this back on in the same fashion, right over those pins. Okay, and then all you gotta do is line this up in the direction that the door is closing. Done. That's perfect. Now, the only thing you have to do, remember here, is the safety lock for parental emergency access to the bathroom. That goes on the outside of the door. And then this one over here goes on the inside of the door. Now, these you want to just put on with your fingers. Find the hole on the other side, and then you got to get one of these. This is a protective sheath for my drill bit. So I can set my drill bit on my drill, pull this down, and I'm not getting a mark from the metal drill bit on the handle. And you just go a little bit at each time. And then take our hammer and set this right into the wood before we tighten up the screws. That'll give us the maximum amount of space that we can have for our door. Oh, nice. Perfect. So that's the basics for the door. Remember, all you got to do now is give it one more quick sand and another touch-up coat of paint, and you're ready to rock and roll. So if you ever want to change your doors and update, it's that simple. Just a couple of steps, follow that process, and you'll be just fine. Thanks for joining us today in Home Renovision. And if you like this kind of video, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, drop them in the comments section below, and we'll see you again next time. Click the video to see how this project turned out.